Hello there! I hope you're doing well. It's been a while since I've reviewed a book, a straight up review in a video. So today I've got 2 book reviews for you on books that I've finished recently. LEAH on the Offbeat by Becky Albertalli and Down and Across by Arvin Amati. These reviews are going to be spoiler free, but I've gotten to this point in my life where I don't even like watching or reading spoiler free reviews. So I'm hesitant to say that anymore because what is a spoiler? I mean, I consider myself spoiled when I hear people discussing a book. Even if it's not a specific event, I don't like hearing about it. So proceed at your own risk. I'm going to talk about my feelings, but not like spoil the ending. And if you're unaware, LEAH on the Offbeat is sort of a sequel to Simon versus the Homo sapiens agenda, which you may know as the movie Love, Simon. So I'm not gonna really spoil Simon versus the Homo sapiens agenda, but you will just know that characters survive. I won't say huge things about them. I'm stressed out. Okay, so I am going to start with LEAH on the Offbeat. I'll leave a time code right here for you to skip ahead. So I read Simon versus the Homo sapiens agenda last year around October. I wanted to be prepared for the movie Love, Simon. Both things I love very, very much. For me personally, the best part of reading LEAH on the Offbeat was seeing Simon. You could tell that Becky knew when he was there that we would be like, oh my god, Simon's there. It's like reading Percy Jackson from third person in Heroes of Olympus. It's like there's just a new element to this character that we love. So I was so excited to get into LEAH's head and read what happens next to these characters. Turns out, nothing happens. And I say that like, that's the harshest thing I have to say about this book. I finished it, I got through it, and pretty quickly, but nothing happens. And in a lot of ways, that's okay. In a lot of other ways, it's so annoying. The only other Becky Albertalli book I had read when I read LEAH on the Offbeat was Simon. Simon has a very specific, very clear concept, very clear a plot. LEAH on the Offbeat sort of reminded me of watching Lady Bird. It's very slice of life. It's about her relationship with her mother, with her friends, with herself and her sexuality. And I loved reading that. If another author had written this book, I would be so much less okay with the lack of specific plot. And I have even criticized other books for having too specific a plot, like Turtles All the Way Down. I wanted to be more something like this. I gave LEAH on the Offbeat 4 stars. Because the other thing was that I was already attached to pretty much every character. I had new visualizations for them because of watching the film. So reading this, what happens next from the author's point of view, was very fun. Very much took me back to high school and the prom time. This is senior year for them, so it's very exciting. LEAH's a great character to be in the mind of, but also so frustrating and sad sometimes because she goes through so many different levels of emotion. People like to criticize YA novels because the voice is dumbed down, or they say that the label YA is an excuse for bad writing, but I think Becky Albertalli is an example of an author who really has a handle on that YA voice, but is so smart and will probably never be caught writing a bad book because LEAH on the Offbeat did not have a lot going on and it was good and very entertaining. Will I remember any of the plot a year from now? No. But I had a good time reading it because LEAH's voice is so clear. The problems she went through were real. It was exciting to read. You know, it's really just like, obviously things happen. It's like 350 pages, but a lot of it is just like the inner turmoil of being a teenager at this time and being someone who's questioning, or not even questioning, but grappling with her sexuality. My other big problem with this book was that I couldn't keep track of what LEAH wanted. She would be in her mind all the time about like having a crush on someone, and then when that person would do something about it, she would get angry at them about something else or the way they brought it up. And I just had a hard time believing that she would stick to her guns that hard when her emotional attachment to them is so strong. So she just did a lot of walking away. LEAH did. I had a hard time with that. Why was there not an acknowledgement of her having to fight her own feelings versus what she was angry with them about? So I definitely enjoyed reading Simon a lot more for a lot of reasons, but this book really just goes to show how talented of a writer Becky Albertalli is. This book was not for me. After reading this, I went right into reading What If It's Us, and I have so much more to say about that one, and it's amazing and brilliant. So that review will be up the day that book comes out. Those are my thoughts on LEAH on the Offbeat. If you're a huge fan of Simon versus the Homo sapiens agenda, I would say this is very fun and definitely worth giving a read. Definitely don't read this if you haven't read Simon. You won't care, and just plenty of things you won't understand. I'm glad I read this. It was a nice little slice of life. Late high school prom book. It's still like a little too soon for me to be reading those books. It's still like the wound is fresh. Here I am, a senior in college, and it's like, ugh, hard to go back to that place. Next we have So next I'm going to be discussing Down and Across by Arvin Amati. This is Arvin Amati's debut novel. It was released, I believe, back in January. Pretty sure that's right. This arc sat on my shelf for months and I never picked it up. And then once it was released, I was suddenly excited about it, and so I bought it and I started reading it on the train ride home when I was reading something else. And I just kept reading it. I was so hooked and I really enjoyed it. About halfway through, I stopped being interested and stopped reading it, and ever since January, I've been picking it up little by little, and for the longest time I've just had like 75 pages left. And I've even said to a few people like, oh, I DNF'd Down and Across. Recently I was just like, I need to finish this book. I still have it marked as currently reading on Goodreads. You know the feeling. So I ended up using one of my 18 million Audible credits, because you forget that you have Audible. Your bank account doesn't forget, but you forget. And I powered through the last like 75 pages with like 2 hours of audiobook, which is 1 hour because I'm a speed listener. So I finally finished it. So yeah, like I said, I was hooked from the get-go with Down and Across. The character is extremely relatable. The main character's name is Socket, or Scott. His parents are going out of town for the summer and think he has an internship, which he does, but he runs away and goes to Washington, D.C. in pursuit of a Georgetown professor who likes to talk about grit, and thus develops his obsession with grit, which is the main concept driving this story. So this book is basically all about him running away to DC. He meets crazy people, adventure ensues. It's very fun for a while, but like I said, somewhere in there, it just lost me. It had this momentum and then nothing ever like stuck. It was just all these twists and turns that just felt like, ah, what are we doing here? The voice was very entertaining in the beginning. The new characters we met were very mysterious until they were not. Yeah, my biggest complaint about this book is just like the last half. Because I did like this book a lot. I think it's totally worth reading if you're someone who feels stuck or has ever felt stuck. It's unique in its own way and it makes me excited about Arvin Amati's career in the future. And it's not like the end like shifts and like gets totally boring. Like it maintains the excitement throughout, which is the problem, that it just doesn't seem really to build towards anything. It's perfectly fine and I think it's worth checking out. Just like personally for me, it wasn't my favorite, but I do think that is a personal thing. Like I know many people who have liked this book. I definitely appreciated what Arvin was doing throughout the book, striving for that unique element that was really successful. With the crossword puzzles, it just like didn't totally do it for me. I ended up giving this book 3 stars out of 5. But I do plan on picking up Arvin's books in the future. So yeah, those are my thoughts on LEAH on the Offbeat and Down and Across. Sorry, my first book reviews in a long time are like 2 meh reviews, but still recommend both of these books. Thanks so much for watching. My name's Tiernan. You can follow me online. All my links will be in the description. Have a good one and goodbye.